You know, I really gotta blame both Monolith Soft and Nintendo for being on their A game when it comes to Xenoblade recently. Those that don't know, in February I made a video called Choose Your Hand, which Xenoblade sword is truly superior, and it blew up, and I really thank you guys for that. But I'm gonna need all y'all 45k plus people that haven't subscribed to the channel to go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. Hey, takes one click. Actually, you know what, 2 clicks, because you're gonna hit that bell too for me, right? Because I got plenty more Xenoblade content to come, and of course non-Xenoblade content. So hey, I'd really appreciate if you guys did that. Thank you guys so much for all the support on that video, but the show ain't over. And if you haven't seen that video, go back to that video and watch it first, and then come back here, because this is kind of like a pseudo follow-up to it, but you can still enjoy this and be fine with what I'm about to talk about. But either way, back to being fake mad at Monolith. But now we could talk about the extra buffs and benefits to the Sword of Origin / Sword of the Ancestors Lucky 7 thanks to Future Redeemed. So Future Redeemed spoilers ahead if you haven't finished the main story, because it's going to be start to finish. Click away because it's getting dangerous. So every time we see in Future Redeemed during his appearance in chapter 4 and till the end, it's very apparent from the words of Zed, Rex, and himself that he's using the Sword of the End. It's a sword that defies the wills of those around him and clashes against it, to destroy and to impress his emotions upon his sword, and grants him immense power that defies the confines of certain abilities such as the Mobius Iris, such as the constructs of the world of Ionios itself, and even the Trinity processor core's incredible powers. Of course, it doesn't completely obliterate them, but it can contest them, and so much more. But when I made that original video, my issue was not having some of this extended knowledge, because in the base game with the Sword of Origin / Sword of the Ancestors Lucky 7, we got bits and pieces of its power and what it could do, but its main benefit was actually in the physical sharpness of the Lucky 7 blade that was within the complete Sword of Origin piece, and it wasn't as heavily a narrative piece to the story as some other aspects would be, like the actual Offseers and the construct of the world and Mobius. So these extra details are great on top of what makes in Sword of the End and Noah's Sword of Origin in the base game become one through their joining in chapter 7 of Xenoblade 3. But the question is, what does that mean? What are these extra powers and where do they come from, and how far can the abilities reach? Well, it turns out, as alluded to in the Final Fight vs. Alpha and Future Redeemed, Matthew's Ouroboros Knuckles held Numa's core crystal power, and in sheath for his Sword of the End holds Logos's, and you could especially tell because in sheath for his sword, from the many angles we can get it when it's on his side, is actually shaped very similarly to Malice's Monado, which is different from how it looks in base Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And boy, when I saw that, I was like, hey, yo, seriously? No wonder A and Rex were like, no way, that glow. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do an addendum to that video, aren't I? But it's okay. Hey, y'all are here too. And what makes this really interesting is you can really understand quite a few things. Of course, I still have some questions because I'm not really sure if I fully understand it, which is what you guys are for, so we can discuss this in the comments below. But this is how I understand a lot of the things. Things like why N was so powerful and was able to keep Mobius on track for so many, even centuries, even beyond centuries, was that power of Logos. And the actual sheath of Noah's Lucky 7 is composed of is really a lot similar, and I think it might be the same thing as Matthew's Ouroboros Knuckles, which holds Numa's power. So even if the crystal is visibly gone in Noah's Lucky 7 gauntlet that you can see on his hand, you can still see, even in chapter 1 when he's fighting Mio and Guernica is there watching him, you can see it has that green glow, and he goes back and looks at the Ouroboros stone. He's like, oh, I see. It would make sense that those two would have a connection, considering Nia made the Ouroboros stones, and Nia also has parts of Numa's power, which is why she can have both blades when she's fighting. So it seems like they don't entirely have access to the full power of Logos and Numa, because if they did, they'd be way more powerful than they are. But it definitely seems like they can tap into even a piece of it, which is more than enough for the sake of their world. But probably the most interesting thing is the lore bits that really tells you how Ouroboros becomes complete in the world of Ionia. Seems like N knew, but we didn't know. But N, being the gangster himself, was really able to come to terms with what he had to do to defeat Alpha, and was like, release the power of Ouroboros, and struck his sword into the ground, and Matthew punched it. Oh, that was so good. Yo, Harry McIntyre, excellent voice actor for Noah and N, and just being an even better character in my eyes through this. And shout out to Matthew, I love him too. But anyways, Ouroboros has always been known up to this point as the power to resist Mobius, which is the fusion of Kevis and Agnes, not Mobius but Ouroboros. And now we know that came into being due to the merging powers of Logos and Numa into individual beings through the correctly charged Ouroboros stone, which thanks to Riku and Nicole, much research was able to be done. And by the way, I was thinking A was the final founder, but it turns out it's actually Riku, and no wonder he didn't want a statue, because you know he's not really talking to person. He doesn't like that celebrity name dropping, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Riku. And also he had to keep his identity sealed, because if they saw him in chapter 5, they'd have been like, Riku. Imagine that though. But anyway, so the fact that not only did Noah's complete sword of origin have essence of Numa's power, on top of Lucky 7's blade being comprised of origin metal and everyone, as Riku said, it was also able to be manifested through his Ouroboros power. And that makes sense because, like I said, the true Ouroboros transformation is the perfect interlink of Kavesian Agnian beings due to Numa and Logos' ether energy. And En knew exactly what it was instantly. But one thing I did question about En Sword of the End is in Future Redeemed, it's never designed at all like it is in Chapter 7 of Xenoblade 3, funnily enough. And fun fact, in Chapter 7, it wasn't even initially shown like this in cutscenes. It was later patched to look like this. It was originally shown like this in Chapter 7 on the left, but the one that it got patched to in the base game, it wasn't ever shown like that in Future Redeemed, and I really expected it to be like that, and I really wish it was so it could show a more proper distinction between just the Lucky 7 blade and the complete Sword of Origin, especially since his sheath changed from looking like Malice's Monado from the Future Redeemed era to more like Noah's in the base game. So I don't really get why they did that, but I do wish it was more of a proper distinction because it seemed to have even more power in this era than in the base game. But yeah, honestly, that's a pretty incredible boost in power, capability, and credibility, and it allows this weapon to stand even higher with Ontos Monado, the Aegises, and don't forget, Ontos Monado got some bonus points too from this DLC. I mean, did anybody else get smoked by Alvis's perfected Monado Buster? I mean, yeah. And I think having a balance of powers from Numa and Logos on top of an additional physical blade that's incredibly sharp really gives it some extra bonus points. Not to say that it has the entire power of Numa and Logos, because like I said, if it did, it would be way stronger, but it does have a combination of both of their powers through Ouroboros, and I think that was the biggest aspect of it. So once En returns to Noah in Chapter 7, he gets that boost due to Logos' energy, enhancing the Ouroboros power even more, accessing new abilities with the Sword of Origin, and he really is able to wield top level Ouroboros power even outside of his interlink, which is just how En is able to wield top level Mobius power outside of his Mobius form. And that's how Noah was able to completely tear apart Zed's theater, and as Noah puts it, the entire sham of it all, even revealing Zed's true form. So with all that being said, once again, revamped version, choose your hand. The Monado versus the Aegises versus the Sword of Origin. Now remember, this choose your hand series isn't about which is stronger, isn't about which is more powerful. It's not about that. It's about what you personally would choose out of all of these reasonings, whether it be about strength, capability, design, coolness, what it comes with, how simple it is, how complex it is. It's just really about what you would choose of these, not definitively what is the strongest or what is the absolute best one of the bunch. No, it's about what you would choose for whatever reason, because it's more fun for a discussion that way. But honestly, I'm still choosing the Monado, but the Sword of Origin now is definitely even higher of a number two than it was before. Before, it was kind of like more even between the Aegises and the Sword of Origin, but now Sword of Origin definitely got it right under the Monado. So what would you choose? Did this DLC change any of your minds? Did it further solidify whatever your original choice was? Even if it's just thematically that changed your impressions of one of these Xenoblade swords and what you really feel about it, how you really feel, then hey, let me know in the comments. Go ahead and get the discussion going. Subscribe for more Xenoblade content. I have much more to go in all facets, Xenoblade content, non-Xenoblade content. And go ahead and check out my other links to like my Twitter, where I be tweeting over there about anything at all. And go ahead and check out my Twitch, where I have some Twitch exclusive series that won't be live streamed over here, but we'll have edited versions over here. So again, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you can stay notified for all the things like that. Thank you all for watching and staying this long. See you next time.